Okay.
My wife's going to see that. About me being on CROA.
Right there. There's also
Part of the argument people keep having with outside. Like, you don't have to show up and do nothing.
About 2025.
Yeah, 3 years from now.
Yeah.
And it's not a huge amount of money. So that's not too close to that.
Oh, those are repairs?
Well, I would think it would be a little bit more.
I want to stop it and restart it.
But maybe
just so you know, we are trying to get cameras working, which for some of us might be a blessing if they never came on. Do want to make sure we are recording before we start. Good or bad?
Yeah, looking.
Oh, look, I see us in the corner.
You're
Yes.
doing the hokey.
Okay, look at that.
Good job.
Are we now recording?
You're recording,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, we have people online.
You have 6+ people on.
Okay, thank you all for waiting. Good evening. This is the Wednesday, August 10th, 2022 meeting of the Celebration Residential Owners Association Board of Directors meeting. Was the meeting properly noticed?
It was properly noted.
And do we have a quorum?
You do?
And just for the record, amazingly enough, I can't remember when this happened last, we have all 7 board members live and in person here in the room, so that's very exciting. Thank you all. If you would stand at this time for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the meeting to order. Our normal process is to ask for owner comments at this time that are related to anything that is on an action item. And then we will hold owner comments for discussion items or anything that's not on the agenda at all. I did not see anyone in the room that had signed up to speak. Am I correct about that? Do we have anyone online that would like to speak?
There are no hands up.
Okay, then we will move on. If you have comments when we get to discussion items, we'll welcome your comments at that time. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. So moved. Is there a second? Any changes or modifications to the agenda? And this would be the time if any board member wishes to remove anything from the consent agenda to do so.
Would it make sense to move the project update number 1 to discuss along with the action required item number 1 or no?
No, action item required the celebration hall. I don't think it would. I think they're
Okay.
2 different things.
Okay, just checking.
Anybody, any other views about that? I mean, is that the raccoon talking to you?
I'm sorry.
What about?
It's the raccoon.
I know you need help.
Jim, help me.
I'm not in here.
Thank you.
Help me, Obi-Wan. You're our only hope. All right. I think we were adopting the agenda. All those in favor of adoption, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the approval of the minutes. First is the minutes of the CROA board meeting from August 3rd, 2022, which seems like forever ago to me. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Any discussion or corrections?
Just for the record, I know the meeting was on the 3rd, but it was the meeting of July the
27th.
27th, so I don't know how that gets referenced.
The meeting actually happened on the 3rd, so I think that's what it is.
Okay,
Correct.
just for clarification.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All right. Those in favor of approving the minutes of the CROA board meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is approval of the minutes of the Finance Committee and CROA board meeting, because we noticed it that way, from June 30th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? And again, all of these minutes are in the board package. You can look at them. And the board members have reviewed all of these items before we came into the meeting tonight. All right. Hearing no comments, those in favor of approval of those minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next on the agenda is a discussion of financials. First, we're going to look at, am I correct, is it the June financials?
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan, I'm going to turn that over to you.
Okay. We have the exhibit up.
Take a look.
1 minute. That it? Okay. This is a new exhibit. Ariel will do it in the future, but I'm going to
Mike,
do
can you speak into the mic?
This is a new exhibit. Ariel will do it in the future, but I'm going to do it for this one meeting here. What I wanted to do is, we've had some quick oral comments. We went through and completed the transition period from CCMC to Grand Manners, but I wanted a one-pager that people could look at and say, how the heck are we really doing? Broke it down for the 3 accounts. The first one being the operating account, the second one being replacement fund, and the third being capital improvement funds. And I barely see that over there, but I think we got operating on top. So for the year, for 6 months, we've had revenues of 2.5 million and expenses of almost 2.6 million. So we've got a loss of about $85,000. In the interest of fair disclosure, we were profitable in the first 3 months. We were unprofitable in the second 3 months. I think our run rate probably is, I'm waiting to see July with interest, but it wouldn't surprise me if we're running at a loss of 40 to 50,000 a month. What's really happened here is we've got a lot of projects going with fixing things up. Inflation has certainly been much higher than we thought it was going to be. We got fully staffed up. So for the year, we got an 85. It would not surprise me at all if we finish the year with a loss of 350,000 or so. Now,
Can I interrupt for 1 second? When you talk about a loss, we're not a profit-making entity, right?
we're not a profit-making entity, but we budget to break even.
Okay,
So
so is loss the right term?
yes, definitely a cash loss beyond a shadow of a doubt. But if you, but I also want you to look at the cash position up here. I put the last 4 years intentionally. If you look at our cash balance at December of 2019, we had 995,000. It grew to 1,045,000, 1,305,000 at year ends. It's at 1,954,000 in June, but that's a little bit of a misnomer. We have a tendency to grow during the year and go down over the year because you have people who will pay a full year in advance and stuff like that. I expect that we'll get down into the neighborhood of the 1,000,000, where we should be. So from a cash position, we're still strong. I have made the comment before that I think we're going to have a 20% increase in HOA rates for 2023. I still very much believe that. Inflation and all that other stuff is real, and I'd be lying to you if I said differently. So I think that's really where we're at. And the purpose of this exhibit is to say, here's our profit and loss for the year. I've told you what I think is going to happen for the rest of the year, but our cash position still looks good. So let's go to replacement funds. Now, we've had a lot of projects, and I have yelled at our president a couple of times about telling everybody how much money we're spending. But, you know, if you look at this for the first 6 months, we spent 473, we had 473 of revenues. We had about 800,000. So we've got a loss of about 300,000. In this case, it makes total sense to me because if you look at the cash down there, we had 1,265,000 in December of 19. That went to 1,853,000, 2,355,000. A lot of things in that 2-year period there during COVID, during the transition from the prior company to Grand Manners, did not get done, and we've been trying to catch them up. So what's happening here makes total sense to me. I've got a note at the very bottom of the page, which you probably can't see there. Lauren has told me she expects that we're probably going to have replacement funds expenditures for the year of about $2.1 million, which ties into with what Jackson's been saying in all seriousness. We'll have another 500,000 of revenues. So we'll probably have $1 million of revenues. We're going to have 2.1 million or so in expenses. We'll be down around $1 million of replacement funds because we'll have, but the good news is we'll have caught a whole bunch of stuff up. As you think about our replacement reserve study, which we did, that was pretty close to what we thought would be the expectation going forward. Again, we're spending a lot of money, but we're going to end the year with $1 million there and have got a lot of things fixed up. The good news about having a lot of things fixed up is you should go back into a position where you start to build a stronger cash position. Capital improvement funds, we still are doing great there. 620,000 of revenue, 96,000 of expenses. You can see over the last 4 years, we went from 932 to 1,425, 2.1 million, 2.6 million. So this has been a very strong position here. We're looking at a few projects, but you also got to remember that in the capital improvement funding arena, the board controls those expenditures. Once we get down to, we can't spend it down lower than $250,000 without having a detailed conversation in the public. But if we even have the ability, if we ended up in a recession and said we want to pull some money out of there to help weather a recession, we could do that. So we have a lot of flexibility. We have a strong cash position there. I've pretty much given you a story, but this is the one pager that I'm going to ask Ariel to speak to in the future, and that Lauren and I, Ariel, have spoken about. It gives you a really good snapshot, and I'd like you to just be forthright about what's happening. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Yes, Cindy, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, Brian, why don't you explain to folks who are balance sheet savvy where the money comes from in each of these three categories?
Operating account comes from regular homeowners assessments. Replacement funds are coming out of those regular homeowners assessments, and we actually, when we do the budgeting and the actual, have an allocation out of there from the reserve engineering studies we do. Those reserve engineering studies are studied by Bill Grindell, who's an expert in that area. The finance committee looks at them and management looks at them. And then by law, what we put into the replacement reserve, we cannot use for anything other than fixing up replacement or fix up type items on existing assets. Capital improvements come from two places, really. They come from the apartment rec fees, and they come from the fee that gets paid on the sales of residences when we collect 1%, or roughly that, on the homeowner sales. So that's coming from not our homeowners assessments, but other sources of revenue.
Well, let me make one small correction. We did have a very small amount per,
$1,000.
yeah, so pennies really, but we felt like homeowners on an ongoing basis ought to have some skin in that game too. Okay. Any other questions about the financials? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I think the important point here is that our cash positions remain strong, and we're doing what we need to do in order to get work caught up and be in a position to continue moving forward. Next item on the agenda is the 2023 budget timeline. I'm going to throw that back to you as well, Brian, to talk about.
Is that up there? I just can't see.
Not yet.
Just let me know when it's there.
There's a hyperlink in there. Okay, we got it.
Perfect. Okay. This is, so the first week, I actually met today with, we had done a top-down budget in June. And that top-down budget is where I worked with the finance committee and then shared with the board. We kind of looked at what was happening with inflation rates, the increase in replacement reserves and that type of stuff. So that's where I got the original indication that I thought we would probably have a 20% increase in HOA rates for 2023. Lauren, Ariel, and the team have been working on a bottom-up budget. I saw it today for the first time. We've made a few changes today, probably got a little bit more tinkering tomorrow. It'll be close to that 20% or maybe just a hair over, but it's in the neighborhood. Our goal is to send that budget, a couple of their sheets and probably my package that a lot of people are used to getting on the finance committee and board by close of business on this Friday. Then we're going to have a meeting on August 24th at 6 p.m. with the finance committee. That will be where the finance committee, the only agenda item is to review the budget and have an in-depth discussion, which I think anytime you're looking at a 20% increase, you ought to have an in-depth discussion. So that's that one. The week of August 29th, before tonight ends, or right now maybe, we need to pick a date. I think, in all honesty, I mean, Lauren and Ariel and I bounced back on a few things, but there are going to be some things where we just need to have a conversation, frankly, amongst the board, because you talked about how fast or how slow do you hire people, the cost and the benefit of that type of stuff, and really understanding the budget. It is my goal to come out of that meeting on August 29th where the board says, and the finance committee before that says, here's 4 or 5 things you got to investigate. You've made 2 or 3 decisions. We got a couple of hanging items. Fine. You would then go to the September 14th board meeting. And at that meeting, we would basically be looking at the final budget for any last tinkering. Very quickly after that meeting, we would send the budget out to all the residents like we do every year. The budget package we mail out. Then in middle of October, the October 12th board meeting, we'd actually adopt the budget. Then we mail out the final budget, tell people what the adjustment will be for HOA rates and billings and that type of normal process. So this is all pretty much standard in line with our normal calendar. What we as a board need to do tonight or right now, please, is we need to agree a meeting date for that week of August 20th.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I would propose Wednesday, August 29th, for us to have that budget meeting.
Wait,
August
what?
29th, Monday?
It's a Monday.
Monday, wait, August 31st.
One thing I gotta say is this will be longer than a 2 hour in the evening meeting, so we gotta,
It will be longer.
oh, I think it'll be longer than
So
that.
are you suggesting a daytime meeting then?
Is it a meeting or a workshop?
It's a workshop.
It's a workshop.
We already have a meeting on the 29th for the
He's talking about
matters.
31st. He said 29th, I'm take it to Monday. He wants
31st.
Wednesday, 31st.
So it's gonna be a third, okay.
And now that I've confused
We
everything.
used to do these during the day, start in the morning, and when you're done, you're done. But
And I don't care if we start in the morning or we can start at 4 o'clock if people want to make it later in the day so people can join us. I don't care. I'm flexible.
I would prefer it doesn't happen during the day, but
Is 4 o'clock a functional time for you or 4:30?
yeah, I can do four, yeah, of course.
I mean, I don't
Even
have a
three, I mean, but not 8 to 12 or 10 to 2 or
We
something
can-
like that.
So many of you have seen the budget so many times that we can do this pretty quickly. So I pretty quickly might mean 3.5, 4 hours. So if we started it at 4:30 and said we understand we might be going till 8 or 8:30 as a one-off, I'm perfectly happy with that.
Okay, so with that in mind, any suggestions as to day?
Thursday, the 1st.
Thursday the 1st, you can be here for that?
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone that would not be able to attend Thursday? the
I mean,
1st?
we start at 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. What's the time people want?
3 o'clock work?
3 o'clock,
I don't want to keep staff here super
Three-
late. so-
3:30, 4 o'clock.
Jim, what works for you?
3:30.
3:30.
I hear
3:30? 3:30.
Going once.
Yeah, you know what? It's
No,
far enough in advance, I'll do 3.
3:30,
3 o'clock, I'll,
3 o'clock.
3:30.
So you want 3:30 now, okay.
my employer's
Just tell
very.
me, just tell me the time. What was the time that was chosen? I'll like to.
I propose 3:30
PM.
on September 1st.
3:30? 3:30 you said. 3:30.
30.
no, 3.
I said I'd do 3.
He said 3:30.
Well, David said 3:30.
David,
3:30.
For now, you said September.
I'm running on advisor group 2.
3:30 is fine.
Okay, any objection to that? All right, 3:30, September 1st is the CROA Board Budget Workshop. Don't miss it.
Be there or
It's the most exciting day of the year.
There's gonna be an alternative event, watching paint dry
You know, it's-
available as well.
Okay. I say that, it's an important event, and it's important that the community hear what we're doing and understand how we're building the budget. Thank you. Any other questions about the budget timeline? Okay, great. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. All right, that brings us to the president's update. I know some of you will be disappointed, there's no slide deck tonight.
What?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
just briefly want to talk about kind of where we're at this point. We have asked management to do an extraordinarily large number of tasks very quickly. And as you'll hear tonight in the management update and report, they've done that. And we're making a lot of progress. I hope that you can see the improvements around town. Having said that, I also know that we're getting two kinds of comments back from owners. One is, why are you citing me for a violation? Which we know would happen when we went to, I don't know, what was it, 600 violations got reported, something like that. We know there's going to be some of that, and we recognize that. But people are doing a great job, all of us, I think, in trying to accommodate that and make those improvements. And hopefully you see it in your neighborhoods as well. Then we've got a kind of an interesting second thing that's happened, which is that whenever we start doing inspections, we get the inevitable, well, what about them? And we've got a lot of folks pointing out all of the mistakes and problems in their neighbors' homes. And I just wanted to say tonight that we know that, the management is aware of that, they're working on it. You can't do everything at once. And many of these properties that have been identified have already been cited and inspected. And so we're working on all of that. The thing I really wanted to say tonight is that I think the board as a whole is very appreciative of the work that the staff is doing. We know that we are asking you to do an enormous amount, whether it's maintenance or landscaping or ARC or covenants or special events or Parks and Rec. I can just go down the line. They're all big pieces. And I would hope that the community would continue to show some grace about this, that we're all neighbors. We're all trying to get to the same goal here. We all want these things to happen. But one of the things that's occurring is that we're getting a continuing stream of really, really unpleasant, ugly, abusive emails and visits to town hall and to the staff. It's just got to stop. It just has to stop. And so I know those of you who are here tonight online or in the room are not the people doing that, I don't think. But I hope that all of us will create the social pressure to say, let's not behave that way. We can be concerned about things and we can be concerned that things aren't being done quite right, but let's not make this into a pitched battle of us versus management. Many of us lived through the years of that. I don't think it worked very well. I don't think it was very good for us as a community. So really my update tonight is we're making progress. We told you that job number one was to go fast and fix stuff. And so in the Celebration News this month, there's a terrific article called Working Together. Is that what the month of August is? Working together?
August, yeah.
Yeah, and we should be working together. And so I appreciate everyone that's doing all of that, both on staff, the board, residents, and I would hope that we would continue to do that. So you're going to hear some of that later tonight. So that's my president's update. Okay, thank you all for. I hope I wasn't preaching. Okay, no, we're going to keep moving here. All right. Next up, we've got the action items. And the way that we handle action items is that we will be moving to the consent agenda once the motion has been made. And the second, we will not debate or discuss it. We'll simply move to it. The board members have reviewed all of these items in the action agenda, so it's not like we haven't seen it or been able to ask our questions of management. So with that, the first item on the consent agenda is maintenance other. We have 5 different motions. They're on the agenda. I'm not going to go through and read them, but at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve consent agenda A for maintenance and other.
I'll make that motion.
Cindy's made the motion.
Second.
Second is made by David.
Oh, I seconded.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go for
Celia seconded it, but her microphone wasn't on. Okay. All those in favor of adopting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Second on the consent agenda. Oh, is that all on the consent
That's
agenda?
it. That's it.
Okay, all right.
Can you believe it?
Wow. Okay, that's the shortest consent agenda we've had. Thank you. Next is item B, which is B1, is a motion to accept the final reports from the Celebration Hall Advisory Group and Communications Advisory Group and to discuss next steps. What I've done tonight is to ask the chairs of both advisory groups to present to us, and I've asked them to keep to a 5-minute executive summary. We don't have to turn on the timer. I think we'll just let them go with that. So we're going to ask each of the chairs to present to us before we move forward. But in order to do that, I'd like to start with just a motion to accept both of these reports.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now, with that, Janine, you want to go first and talk about the Communications Advisory Group?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry, don't mind me, I'm a little slow right now.
That's understandable.
Well, first, thank you all for the opportunity to be able to look through communications in Celebration and for the opportunity to chair. It was an incredible amount of fun. We learned a lot. And we all really enjoy diving into the communications in this community and looking forward to the impact we'll be able to make through these recommendations. So through our comprehensive audits, which you can see in the 26 pages of your document, we developed recommendations to develop an overall communication strategy and channel planning strategy and prepared ones that work for all demographics within the community. These recommendations are robust and will require extensive planning and coordination between CROA, the town hall staff, and engaging the community to ensure changes are moving in a positive direction. Overall, what we found through both surveying and through our audits is there's a tremendous amount of quality information and documentation available, both from CROA and from Town Hall, but a lot of the communications channels and content need updating and made easier to access and read. The key strength is the breadth of information, but the key gap is a lot of the timeliness of the communications, the mechanisms for communications, and the unofficial sources that are not managed by Town Hall, which can confuse and frustrate residents. But overall, opportunities are extremely robust. So some key recommendations that we have that are outside of the specific channel planning and some of the specific recommendations are related to the, They're related to the development of a communications committee that would meet similarly to other committees within Celebration. And we've included information both on that charge and the responsibilities and qualifications for the committee, as well as after talking to Liz, who is a great resource through everything, that a staff member should be brought on to the town hall staff to assist with communications and the needs of a communication specialist. So one big thing, though, that we want to see with those additions, though, is the feedback focused and communications focused KPIs developed to determine efficacy and return on time and return on investment. And with these, we put recommendations within the report too that would develop those specific KPIs for you all. Just a few main things to highlight from the report because there's a lot. We went through a whole digital audit and believe that we should develop a better rubric for website hosting, theme updates, and user experience. The development of a holistic content calendar with reference back for email and social. We also would like to see standards such as chapters, captions, and time lists of posting put for videos and meeting agendas. Recommendations with digital signage, timeliness protocols, responsiveness protocols as discussed with our town hall, information related to the magazine, as well as US mail updates so we don't have any issues like D9 violation letters again. Information related to the portal so the usage is greater, and enhanced new resident communications. But with all this, our biggest recommendation is user experience feedback. As changes are implemented, having these mechanisms in place for each of them is crucial for both progress and effectiveness. And I'm happy to take any questions if you have any. Otherwise, thank you.
Yeah, let me thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate the
thank
work
you.
of the advisory group. What we're doing tonight is not discussing the specifics of any of these. All we're going to do is to accept your report into the record. So we will ask you back here, I'm sure, to answer questions, but that's not our goal tonight.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the work of the entire group. We do have Krista Thompson's here as part of that group as well. I think, is that, not, yeah. So thanks, appreciate it. All right, Dory, come on up, please.
Hi, Dory Moyer. I'd also like to say thank you for this opportunity. We also learned a great deal while we were during this process and actually met new people and gained friendships and so on and so forth. So it was a great time. So the Celebration Hall Advisory Group members are Paul Raskin, who I'd like to also thank for being our grammarian and our editor for condensing all of our conversations, research, into the 65-page report. And also my friend here, Tom Palm, who was awesome for all the networking he did on our behalf and also his technical support. Thank you. Also to the rest of the group, Vaughn Roberts, Dave Berlsman, Paul Kinser, Dave Hume, and Diana Wasalo. The group started with 3 open CROA meetings here at 851. 6 workshops, 2 tours, and the town hall meeting, which we also had here, which was open to the public, and hours of additional networking and research over a course of 3 months. The group initially was given 3 directives, locations. 851 building, Lot B at the Civic Quarter, and the Celebration Theater. The directive was not to include anything but a list of questions, is what we received in the beginning, such as what is a town hall, what is a community center, what is a performing arts center, and questions on needs assessments, which is all found on page 37, those answers from the committee or the group. One of the first things we did was to compile a list of questions related to needs assessments for management. We sent these, I think about 2 pages worth, and we sent them to Lauren, who did a great job through this whole thing and answering questions, and her quick turnaround. We really appreciated all that. We also requested needs assessment from Parks and Recreation and current partner programs, and we had a very in-depth PowerPoint presentation for management and the Parks and Rec department. This was quite helpful in the next steps, reviewing the current use of the 851 building, such as possible expansions and use, which is found on page 5 through 17. So there's a lot of information there. Next is information from Lot B at the Civic Quarter. We reviewed the KPM Franklin's engineering report which is referenced on page 32, and discussed options for this piece of land. Then on to the theater downtown. There are blueprints, sketches, recommendations for possible use for theater 1 and 2. Then on June 23rd, we held a town hall meeting, which I mentioned, and presented a PowerPoint presentation of our findings to that point. We took questions and also listened to resident comments. All of these are in the report, including a brief overview of the Celebration High School auditorium, which also was mentioned at that town hall meeting and subsequent meetings since then. The board then at that time, after that meeting, expanded the directive and included the Stetson building, a lot on Celebration Boulevard in Lakeside Park. Stetson is currently owned, but does have some options for leasing. But that was not part of our directive, so most of that will be done by the board and other management. There was also, we weren't quite sure what lot on Celebration Boulevard, so they're all included, I believe, in the report. So we didn't miss any. And this also in the report gives you information from the official record books, size of lots, and there's a number of deed restrictions with each and every lot as to what can go on that lot. And finally, we had Lakeside. We thought this was very interesting finding that Lakeside Park, its official name is Celebration Lakeside Community Center, which we thought, well, why not? What a great place for a community center down there in the center of town. This area does have a great deal of potential for expansion, and there are illustrations in the report for what a community center could look like overlooking Lake Reinhardt, and suggestions of various ways that it could serve the community, and that's on page 52. So Lakeside Park and the theater does have the best parking options we found, because that was one of the things in the questionnaire is what area has best parking, which we found that Lakeside Park has 52 parking spots within Lakeside, which could it be expanded. But there is a total of 750 available, including that 52 parking spots downtown from Water Street to Stetson and all the surrounding areas. And of course, that area downtown, Lakeside, theater, is great for walkability. And that breakdown, if you want to look, we thought that was an interesting finding ourselves. So that breakdown is on page 19 of where all the different parking spaces are down there. But at this time, I'd also like to thank Danny Bumpus for the 65-page document of Lakeside Park and for his assistance with blueprints, sketches, and an abundance of archived material, which you also find throughout this report. So based on all the information that we were able to obtain, what you won't find in the report is that the advisory group did not make a recommendation on one specific location or another, but looked at each one, analyzed it based on location, on its own merit, and then tried to determine how each could be enhanced, expanded, or how each location could benefit the community overall.
Thank you very much. And I certainly want to thank all the members of that advisory group as well. At this time, any questions or discussion from the board before we move to a vote? Brian?
I got two comments. First off, I read both reports again yesterday and today, and I think they're both very good. One of the problems I've had over the last 4.5 years being on the board is people will say that, they don't remember, or somebody needs to actually put something in writing. It is extremely valuable to have both reports with everything in writing, because it puts together, there's been a million old wives' tales running around, and especially your report, or your team's report, did a great job of putting some facts on the table, because facts actually help the conversation every once in a while. I know some of the work we're doing on the project as regards community centers, performing arts, there's actually a lot of recommendations in the communication one that have a lot of impact on the budget. I think it would be a huge mistake if we did not have a conversation. I know we don't have any more August meetings, but in early September at least, because Actually, we're going to have had the finance committee meeting, as I referenced earlier, and the board budget discussion meeting without even had the conversation with them. And they had several recommendations that cost money. They had a staffing issue that cost money. So, and I thought the report was actually very well written. Communications has been harped at it a lot. When I read it, it made it pretty darn clear to me that we either have to say communications, put that on the bottom and let's not communicate, or actually let's get serious about it. So the forming of a committee and next actions are going to matter, but it's going to affect our budget again.
Yeah, and I would assume that we'll discuss that in the budget workshop. I had intended that that would happen. I know the board has all read the reports and we should be ready to discuss them. Any other comments? Good.
Just again, reading both of these reports, I sat there and went, wow, just for each of them. I was more involved with the communications one, as one of the board liaisons, but it was just lots of good detail. A few surprises in there, which was delightful. And then reading through those different lots, I don't know, what were there, 10 on 10 of potential purchases or whatever, Celebration Boulevard and so forth. It was fascinating. So thank you for that. And I know that the Celebration Hall one is going down another track with the other group doing some reviews. But with the communications one, I'm wondering if it's worth, after management digests it and thinks about what a management plan might look like, I wonder if it's worth a workshop. Separate from a board meeting, just an hour and a half, 2 hours, diving in some specific options so that we're not. So anyway, I'll focus just on the communications pieces because there's lots of pieces there. I know that there's references to the technology committee and some implications there. So I just wonder about a workshop, maybe in September after we can digest it a little bit. Just a thought to throw out.
Absolutely. Any other comments? I'll just wrap up by saying that there was a fair amount of comment that 90 days wasn't enough time and we couldn't get anything done, and that was a silly way to set it up. I think that both advisory groups proved that that was not the case. The work that was done was really superlative, and the board, I think, and the community appreciate very much the work that you all did. So with that, we have a motion and a second to approve into the final reports of both the Celebration Hall Advisory Group and the Communications Advisory Group. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And again, our thanks to both groups.
Jackson, are these available for the residents to see?
They're part of the board package.
And I was thinking we ought to distribute them separate from the board package because some people won't see them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point. Now that we've adopted them and accepted them, I think they should be made available.
Follow the communications recommendation about distinct places for things on the website.
Yeah. Okay. Lauren, will you handle that for us? Okay, great. All right. Next on our action items is a motion to appoint a management one-year performance review group. Let me explain this before I ask for the motion itself. We are coming up on a year with Grand Manners, and Grand Manners and us in the original contract indicated we do a one-year performance review. Part of that process will be a series of questions and template answers that Grand Manners does typically with their properties. But we also felt it made sense to appoint 3 board members to do what we call soft review in advance of that we would be looking at some specific metrics and trying to gather some information. The review of Grand Manners will be done in public, to be clear, but this is to help the board prepare for that review, which would happen, I think, in October. Am I right about that? Okay, so that is what we are proposing tonight. With that, is there a motion to appoint a one-year performance review group of 3 board members?
I'll make the motion.
That's Celia making the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Bill makes the second. Any discussion?
I think as part of that review, you talked about a soft review, but I think there will be some metrics, but I also think part of the assignment would be to identify other metrics that we can use a year from now and 2 years from now. I know we did some KPIs with the study from UCF about 3 years ago. Those got lost. Those metrics, up to the largest extent, got lost in the transition. But I think it's important that we have metrics so it's not so soft in future years. So I think part of it is when this review group does its thing, what would help that decision-making a year later, and then more formally, a year after that?
And what will the process be for picking the 3 board members?
I will nominate 3 board members, and unless there's an objection, that will be the way we'll move forward.
Doing that tonight?
No, I will do that via email. Any other questions, comments?
I think it's important to do, and I know that this is also good business practice for businesses to do a performance review with a contractor. We do that with employees all the time.
And let me just remind everybody, the board will be making the final review. This is a soft first level review to help us be more efficient when we get to the larger review. All right, anything else? Then all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Item number 3 on the action items is a motion to approve the closure of Town Hall on October 1st during the porch and yard sale at the recommendation of the Special Events Committee. Is there a motion to
I'll
approve?
make the motion.
Celia makes the motion. Is there a second? Okay, Jim makes it. Jim seconds.
I'm curious what the issue is.
Yeah, go ahead. Celia, you want to take this?
The issue is.
Wait, we're gonna get you on mic. Thanks.
Oh. The issue is conversation on the board liaison for special events, and we discussed what happened in the spring with town hall being open and the restrooms being open, and how management was, I don't know, Lauren, were you here for that? You want to explain?
I would let, Nikki's the one whose team had to
Nikki.
deal with it.
Nick, you want to explain it?
So as far as the restrooms being open at Town Hall, unfortunately, when we have outsiders come in and visit us, they do trash the building as well as the restrooms.
And this is because of the
Unfortunately.
units set up outside on the lawn out here.
Yeah, correct. There's roughly 80 tables outside.
Yeah, we have a lot of tables.
And we do have portable toilets set up.
Yes.
They will be getting the portable toilets set up.
But just here. Be like all over town.
No, no, it's just there outside.
Front of your house.
Well, I remember the Halloween.
I don't even want to go there. All right, any other discussion? Cindy?
Well, no, I have a question, it has to do with porch and yard sale and using this property.
Yeah.
So I noticed that the number of tables has been growing and growing and growing. Is anyone allowed to rent a table there, here? I mean, do you have to, is it just condo owners, or is it anybody who owns a home? Or,
It's for condos and apartments.
okay, just making sure. Okay. I was hoping to cut down on your work if you were letting homeowners do that. Never mind.
All right, any other discussion? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Item number 4 is a motion to approve the entertainment contract for Founder's Day 2022 as recommended by the Special Events Committee. Is our performer still a secret to the public?
No.
No. This is Founder's Day.
Yeah.
Right?
It is a secret.
Okay, all right, just want to remind the board before you start the meeting.
good, it's a secret.
Founder's Day, all right. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Cindy, is there a second?
I'll second.
That's a secret.
It's a secret. Thank you. I think Celia seconded before it became a secret.
Okay.
You all in your board packet have the actual contract. Liz, is there anything that you need to tell us about that, or is it all pretty straightforward?
Straightforward.
Okay. Any questions or conversation, Celia?
On the contract, number 18, about the, since it's scheduled to be outdoors, the weather backup venue,
Mhm.
all that technical terms and everything.
Uh-huh.
What happens if Mother Nature is against us that day? We don't have a backup venue. What happens when we pay them? Do we get money back? Do we get anything back? Do we lose the money? What happens?
Same thing with the Irish dance group that we had to cancel earlier this year. They keep their deposit or their full
Yeah, but that's,
rate.
was that this much money?
It was significant.
This is the challenge when we go outdoors, always. The location of this event will be where, Liz?
At the community field complex.
So we'll put the performers under a covered,
The stage will be covered.
Well, it actually requires a covered stage.
right?
Yeah.
So that's about all we can do. If we get bad weather, we're out of luck again. Gee, we could use a performing arts center. Okay, so.
Or a big tent.
Or Big Ten,
Yeah,
yeah.
really big tent.
Right.
Big tent.
Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, thank you very much. Now to the discussion item. Again, just to remind our audience online and here, if there is a discussion item in which you wish to speak after the board and management have had their opportunity to talk, we'll invite you to come up and you'll have 3 minutes to talk to us about that. The first discussion item, A, is the management update. So I'll turn that over. Who might turn that over? To you, Lauren. Go ahead.
I'll start with staffing. We have one vacancy for an IT administrator. We've received some promising applications after tweaking the job description a little bit, and we'll be actively interviewing as we find good candidates. As of today, we have a vacancy for administrative assistant. We lost Jen, our executive administrative assistant, and Miss Evelyn is taking over her spot. So we have Evelyn's spot that is now vacant.
This chart that Evelyn just gave us is wrong already.
I'll go on to community standards. In July, the town hall inspectors focused on the landscaping category. 472 violations were sent out to 430 homes between July 1st and July 31st. In addition to initial inspections, the inspectors also completed 605 re-inspections, 30 resales inspections, 15 complaint follow-ups from either emails to CROA or residents logging into the portal and reporting a violation, and 62 ARC review inspections. Moving down to operations projects, 12 parks have been completed, 56 projects were completed in the month of July, 7 new projects were initiated, and 28 projects are currently in progress, with I think more
In the pipeline.
in the pipeline and larger numbers since I put this
Yeah.
together last week.
Question. So are we getting to the tail end? I mean, I know we tackled the expensive stuff up front. Are we getting to the point where we think we're getting to the tail end of most of the larger items?
Yes, so all the parks are approved and done except for one, which is Deer Woods Park, but that's going to be a special thing that Lauren and management's working on. And then also possibly some add-ons for another passive park that we met with the residents that's surrounding that park. They are wanting to change the sod completely. So the landscaping, that's done. Big ticket items are done. The rest of the stuff is going to be North Village. Well, let's see, we have North Village still to bid. We still have to receive the bids for Artisan of stuff there, and also Celebration Village, like on pavilions, sidewalk grindings, things like that. And
These are smaller projects, correct?
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
Brian's point. We're getting
Yeah,
really
yeah.
into the.
the chairs for here.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say chairs, I was gonna say green down in East Lawn.
Yes, they're redoing the bid for that.
So when
Yeah.
someone says they want to replace the sod, how do we go about that? Because that costs a lot of money. So is it because they don't like the color of the sod, or?
No,
I mean,
it's
how do
actually the
we-
condition
I mean,
of sod.
I'm worried about a lot of people just like, we'll spend town hall.
It's
money.
not surviving, so it's Penny Royal, right there in front of the houses. And I guess during a hurricane years ago, it made it kind of turn into a bowl. And I have the whole email from the resident and everything explaining. We went out, we examined it. I guess Yellowstone, multiple of other landscaping companies went out there. They put sand, no topsoil, and then the sod. So therefore, the grass that they put in there is not living.
Right, because it's kind of put them up.
Because they put the wrong kind of sod in. It needs to have Bermuda, which was the grass that originally was placed there, or St. Augustine, that is the right type of grass to install there.
much as I'd like to talk sod all night, I think the point is that the progress is being made.
Correct.
We're narrowing down to the smaller pieces.
We are.
I'm sorry, it's 5 till 7. I'm allowed to ask a question or two.
So yes, we
I have a
are.
question.
Yes, good.
We had I don't remember if you were there, but Brian and you, we were at the Founder's Park. And there was some, it sounded like some significant issues related to drainage and stuff. I don't remember seeing on anything since then.
We have been working with the technology committee on some smart irrigation fixes to that issue. That's gonna be a larger issue than just a CROA issue, so we need to start engaging CDD, and Jose and Tom have had some conversations. We had a conference call with one vendor about smart irrigation, and we're moving forward. It's slow progress.
It's gonna be, I think, a big project for next year.
Well, it sounded big, and I know you're looking for big numbers.
And that will be replacement reserves, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah.
And while we're in that neighborhood, and it's not our problem, I mean, I guess it could be, the school is slowly washing away into the street. All that sand and everything in the front.
Well, we did that
But they're going
initial,
into our, well, CCDD's drains.
yeah.
but-
We did an initial CROA inspection of the school. I want to say in March.
It was, I think, April.
Maybe February, March, before Susanna left, so February.
February, yeah.
We supplied that, the drainage issues and the dead sod and many other issues were brought to their attention. They had told us that they were gonna work on those during the summer while school was out. Some items have been addressed, many have not. We'll do another CROA inspection and have a conversation with them, but there's not a lot
So
do
the
about.
pressure washing roof stuff was done.
Let's remember, this is Canoa's issue, not ours.
Yeah.
The only thing that relates to us, and you may be saying this, Celia, is that as part of our agreement to continue for 2 more years on the fields, we indicated that they needed to keep the maintenance of their property. So that's the standard we're holding them to. Go ahead, Celia, we're gonna say.
But they're not. Are you just, Bill,
What?
don't look down. Are you talking about Mulberry where the middle school is, how the gullies have washed away?
Mhm.
That's like on them for safety issues.
Oh, no, I agree,
Kids are
but-
constantly running on there.
I just want to make sure it was brought to, I know it's not our problem.
No, I know.
I wanted to make sure that it was brought to their attention.
It has been.
It would be good that you went to the NOAA board meeting and they brought it up as a member of the public.
Okay.
Okay,
I can do
All right.
that as a board member?
Okay.
okay.
Where are we on, just hold on. Heritage, the back lot?
Jacob is gonna be starting that in the next 3 weeks. He's finishing up Long Meadow, Savannah Square, and a couple more parks over there, and he just finished Academy Row, and then he's moving.
That's a big one.
And the board members, we do have a spreadsheet that Natalie has prepared with each project and its completion date and start date. So all of that data is there. All right, Lauren, let me turn it back to you.
Call center log. Hopefully, we won't be doing this much longer. Total calls, 804 over 21 business days with an average of 38 calls a day. The call center resolution rate was 94.9%. So 41 calls were transferred back to town hall. An average hold time of 31 seconds. An average time on the phone with the agent is 4 minutes, 8 seconds. And an average time for calls transferring back to town hall is 1 minute, 24. These numbers have not fluctuated a lot for the last few months. I will note that on August 15th, we have the new phone system going into town hall. Once that's in, we will be setting up the new litany back there. So phone calls will first be triaged here at town hall, and then the call center in Texas will be as kind of a last ditch if somebody here at town hall is unavailable to assist the residents. So we're hoping to roll that out towards the end of August.
Do we have an after hours number for residents to call when nobody's open?
We will, if moving forward after this phone system is set up, if residents call the number after hours, it will be forwarded to an on-call phone.
Person?
Yes, person.
Member of management.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of walk-ins, we had 620 residents that were assisted at Town Hall on weekdays and 22 residents assisted at Town Halls on Saturdays throughout the month of July. IT projects, human detection has been activated at Lakeside, the tennis courts, Heritage Hall slash Spring Park. And you have Spring Lake and East Village will be coming soon in terms of human detection. So those are set up. We get a lot of lovely emails at night when people are at those locations between the hours of, I think, 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. or something to that effect. So we can see what's happening during those hours. We're correcting camera placement at the dog parks to provide better visibility for incidents, because that's been a tripping point for the dog park committee and the Parks and Rec staff. As I said, the new phones come in on the 15th. The website is fully migrated to our new vendor, and we're working with them to repair the broken links and replace missing information. We are also working with vendors to address wire management and mounting of the TVs to address the connectivity issues that affect the cameras and other things that impact this meeting room. So hopefully we won't have the starting and restarting of the system all the time.
Can we go back to the walk-ins for a second?
Yes, ma'am.
On Saturdays, so there's, let's say, 4 Saturdays in a month, and you had 22 residents come in, so that's like 5 residents on a Saturday.
Mhm.
Do you have a feel for what they come in? Is it important things like IDs, or is it, do you have a open house schedule? I mean, is it worth us keeping the office? I guess that's what I'm getting at ultimately. Is it worth us keeping the office open on Saturdays with so few people coming in to do?
Do what?
Yeah.
Generally, it's IDs. Sometimes it's dog park access. Sometimes it's just general questions. I would say I have additional metrics on what specifically they come in to ask about, and I can share that with the board, and we
What are
can
the
expand
hours?
that discussion.
What are the hours on
10
Saturday?
to
10 to 5,
And what staff is here on Saturday?
one front counter person.
I would love to get a recommendation from management as to whether we should continue doing this or not.
Or shorten the hours even more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember at one point we were doing Saturday and Sundays, weren't we?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. and we
Yeah,
cut
put
that
that back.
Most city halls would not be open on a Saturday. So to the extent that we function like a municipality, we have to wonder whether it's useful.
Are there any partner programs that use?
Celebration Embrace, X Factor Dance, sometimes Irish Dance.
We have a maintenance staff person that's scheduled to cover weekends, so it wouldn't impact partner programs or other rentals. It just impacts the
So the
person
window
sitting
would
at-
just be
The window
closed?
would just be closed.
Give us a recommendation on that.
Absolutely.
Standard management is a 40-hour week with some sort of on call for emergencies. And the emergencies are kind of curated. This is an emergency. This is not an emergency. You know, that kind of stuff.
Two questions. One is with the human detection activation, is that also planned for the CCFC? On the radar screen there
I
in the
think
future?
I would wait to see how the access control works after
Okay.
the pickleball.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question is, with this human activation and the cameras, how does it work when there's no lights on? You know, low light visibility, like here we are December and it's 7 o'clock and it's all light. And then separately, when we have the dog park lights that go in, are they sensitive to that? I mean, are there differences? I don't know how that all works.
You can see
Everything you can,
the evening pictures, or you can see
They're
just
just as
fine. I
good?
can see the lovely raccoon family walking through Lakeside in the middle
even
of
if
the night.
even if there's no lights on?
Yes,
So it's,
Rocky
okay,
Raccoon.
interesting.
Rocky and Ricky.
Okay, good, thank you.
I can show you some pictures.
Oh, that's okay, I don't need any records.
The final item about management, which doesn't show on the agenda here, but which came up yesterday, was that we had another problem with the IT group for Grand Manors in Texas. Can you explain what's happening, where we are?
So we had the covenants templates, letter templates corrected, so they have the correct verbiage. The problem that came up this round was the batch of escalation letters that were approved at the last board meeting for assigning
Mhm.
properties to a covenants hearing. Those letters printed with just the day Thursday with no other additional information on the sheet. So it says your hearing date is Thursday. Nothing.
Some, yeah,
So
Thursday.
some Thursday, pick your Thursday.
right when we found out about that yesterday, we called Grand Manners Corporate. They got, they went all the way up the chain to try to correct that issue. We will be, I need to talk to Gary about this rescheduling the 18th meeting, so we can accommodate the 14th schedule. But yeah, so this is the second time that that issue has occurred. So Grand Manners Corporate is aware and is working to fix it.
How does that happen? That a letter gets through that has no date on it? I mean,
Coding configuration.
Coding.
it's coding. There's not a person who
Well,
actually
it
looks at it.
It's
It
not
didn't-
human error. It's nothing with this team here local.
Well, I know,
Oh,
that I know.
This was
That I
not,
know.
these weren't sent out, correct?
They were mailed, yes.
They were mailed, okay.
So how it works is once the board approves the escalation of the violation, we go through in Serenet, we click on the violation on, say, ABC Teal Street or whatever, and you hit escalate. It pops up with a calendar option and a time option, and you have to physically select the calendar date. So for this, it was the 18th, Thursday the 18th, and then you type in 6 p.m. and you select the 851 building.
5 p.m.
Or 5 p.m., sorry. What should happen is that's information that should be populated into the mail merge in Serenet when it prints. For some reason, that piece of information in the mail merge is not printing in Serenet. The resident name, the resident address, all other information is being populated in the mail merge, but not that piece of information that we are manually putting in before even approving it to print.
It doesn't even let you, if you don't approving it.
Yeah, so here's what's gonna happen. I have calls scheduled with Grand Manners, senior management, for later this week and the first part of next week to discuss this. I'll report back to the board and the community. They may have a solution before then, but talking about it. I think the one point that I want to emphasize is what you just heard. This is not something the local team has done wrong. And I know that there's been a lot of anger and pushback to you guys locally, and it's really misplaced. That's not really where the problem is. Just to be clear. So we'll get it fixed. Grand Manners will get it fixed, I'm sure. But well, I mean, we're gonna hold them to it. We're gonna hold them to fix it. I mean, I don't, nobody's saying they won't fix it. So I think we just have to figure out why it's happening. All right. Anything else? Thank you for the update, Lauren. I appreciate it. Next on our agenda is the project updates. We're gonna look at two specific projects. The first is the 851 engineering study. Just as a reminder, what we did is that we authorized earlier, or I guess last month, to have a study done of the 851 building and its status with respect to repairs versus did we have to scrape the building and start all over again. The board received that report yesterday. I'm not sure exactly where we want to go with this discussion. Bill, can I start with you? Do you have comments about it?
Well, the report is a good initial report. And in essence, they look at the different aspects of the building. We're primarily concerned with the exterior configurations. And what they did was within their scope. I would think that there's some other things that can be done. So their scope would probably need to be expanded a little. But in a nutshell, they're basically saying they think the roof is okay, but heading towards the end of its life. That's supported by the anticipated longevity of the roof, which is in our reserve study. They have that roof being replaced in 3 years. But they do find a lot of problems with the building envelope and everything coming down vertically. They have some pretty pictures of some rust. They have concerns about the curtain wall where it hits the ground. We've got the wall, we've got the dirt, and they're touching. They have to touch someplace, but they don't believe that there's flashing that goes around under the side walls. which should have been built at the time. And I've had property with this exact same problem. And what you have is you've got a wall like this, and it wicks up. The water through natural processes will go up in either behind the wall or into the material. Now, they did not do what's politely called forensic analysis, which means they did not get any holes in anything, which I would think would be the time. Because I would expect that if things are really leaking, you'd know about it. You know, does anybody in the staff think that there's stuff coming through the walls,
Yeah.
except for your office?
And I think.
And we do that on purpose.
This
You know,
room
you-
as
Keep me on
well.
my toes a little bit. This corner leaks as well, and
But this is on the floor level,
mhm.
not through the walls themselves.
No, we do have window leakage.
Okay,
So just briefly, the report identified 11 separate physical concerns. They're in the report. We don't need to go through all of them tonight, but the bottom line here is the building is usable, but we've got significant repairs to do. Is that a safe statement?
that's safe. And that there is steel in the major structure of this building, not in the addition in the back.
Right.
That's a block building. And they also have a very broad opinion that redeveloping the building in the back is doable.
And the report goes a little bit into that, and that certainly dovetails with what we've heard from the advisory group and some of the other areas. So we have this report now. I think this is significant to tell us one of the things we needed to know, which was where does this fit into the 851 in the broader scope? It looks to me like what we're really saying is we've got money in replacement reserves for most of these items, if not all of them, that are identified by the engineers. And that work we should probably begin as soon as possible. Yes, no?
We don't have this number. The building envelope stuff is not in the reserve study.
Oh.
Roof is,
The roof, windows,
Yeah.
doors,
The windows are, the HVAC is.
HVAC.
Okay,
so we do not have a number.
but we don't have a number for the envelope.
These are initial construction issues, as I
Well,
read. I mean, I don't
we're
know.
way beyond worry.
Well, I know, but I mean, it wasn't done right in the first place, kind of stuff, and it wasn't maintained
Well,
over
I-
the years.
They imply that since they
Right.
haven't done any forensic
Exactly.
analysis, I would need to hear it for sure by taking a look at it.
So
But
we
they-
don't have
they
a number, we don't have a number from them about what it would take to make those repairs that are outside the things that we've already identified from replacement reserves. Is that what you're saying?
And we don't have a number for the reserve study for that item otherwise, because we have stuff in the reserve study for air conditioning, for the roof, all kinds of
So,
things.
so let me just go. So Brian, where would we pay for that?
Operating. Either operating or capital improvement.
Yeah, okay, well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay. We could use capital funds. It's our discretion if we wanted to do that, and particularly if we incorporated some expansion of this space. You're giving me a look, Celia.
I'm just thinking to myself, I don't want to interrupt you. I am.
You don't want
I'm
anyone?
not giving you.
She doesn't want to interrupt you.
I don't want to
Oh, no, no,
interrupt
no,
you,
I
but I
just-
don't want to lose my train of thought.
Go ahead. What's your train of thought?
So why would we even discuss fixing this building if we don't even know what we're going to do moving forward? We're gonna knock it down.
Well, that's what this report says, is we're not going to knock it
Says
down.
don't
There's
knock
no
it
reason
down.
to
Oh,
do
I
it.
don't think so.
I don't think
I think
that's a different interpretation.
Yeah.
We're not taking-
Because we have another, and I didn't hear there were 5 big issues with this building: the air conditioning, the electric, the water intrusion, and there were 2 other things,
Windows.
the plumbing. The last thing I heard was that you had estimates from 3 fixes of those things, and it was already at $330,000. Did you ever get the other 2 estimates?
No, I don't think we finalized.
Okay, so we're talking easily $500,000 to fix these other things. Plus, what it's gonna cost to seal up this building the way it should. To say that this says that we're not gonna just level this building and start from scratch, I think is premature. Just saying.
That was
I would
actually the
not-
words, that was actually the words of the engineer.
I would not think this is,
But does he know about
this
the
is not a
electric
tear
and all
down
that?
building. This building needs some maintenance. It's also at an age when it should have some maintenance, so.
But the problem is we talked about, the people in this community want a performing arts center, they want a senior center, or someplace to have more meetings. They want a recreation center, and now we find out that we need staffing. The only way, if you raised this building and raised and level it, you could build something 3 stories that would address at least 3 out of those 4 things. For the same, probably not much more than it would cost to enter into any kind of rental agreement with anybody over a long period of time. If you're talking, I mean, why wouldn't you take this, at least 500,000, 700, whatever it's going to cost to do this, and build a building that will solve 3 of these issues and give us extra space going forward, because the community is going to continue to grow and people are going to continue to want different things.
Cindy, do you have an estimate as to how much you think that will cost to build?
Millions, but it's going to cost millions if you rent.
How many millions?
I don't know, but that's what I'm saying.
Well,
You
that's,
can't-
we don't have that number yet. So,
I think what structurally sound. I
Yes.
agree, it said the envelope was probably gonna be, that's what I read. I think anything that we might do to this building is premature until we actually, I will agree 100% with you that a conversation about this building in whole should be part of the overall conversation.
Absolutely.
You may fix this building and completely redo the back half, that may be the solution. It's premature to spend money until we have the bigger conversation.
So we can't have that bigger conversation until we have a number to what I think I agree, is the logical choice if you're going to tear it down, to build it higher and bigger. Absolutely. But we don't have that number. So are we going to get that number somehow? Are we going to commission someone? What are we going to do?
Well, I think we have to decide based on the reports we got, what avenue we're going to take.
But you can't, I can't go through that process, right? Without having at least a range, whether it's 2 to 4 million, 6 to 8 million, 12 to 14 million. Those are big differences, right?
Right.
What we need to do is have some more in-depth work on the building envelope stuff. If we do the building envelope, we should fast forward and do the roof, because they join, and we might as well get it right at that point in time, instead of doing the building envelope and then ripping off the roof and disturbing the building envelope at a future date. But beyond that, I don't know that we're discussing ripping all the stucco off the building. We may be doing patch and repair, even if we have to cut off the bottom foot all the way around and fix it. That's still a lot cheaper than a new building. We don't have that yet because we don't have I don't think we have a good sense of the complete number for the building envelope. On top of that, I've heard the 350 number. I've looked at the reserve study, and they shouldn't necessarily tie to each other. But I don't know where that number comes from, because an air conditioning system shouldn't cost that much, even if we're buying a new one. The water thing, are we talking about replacing the pipes, all the pipe?
They're copper piping, so they probably do need to be replaced. They're eventually gonna start having pinhole leaks and stuff.
It's not copper. Is that the same crap the rest of us have in the PCP stuff?
So how do we know if this report and all 11 of these items that all talk about water intrusion, how do we know there's like no mold in this building, in these walls?
Well, that's why we gotta knock a few holes in it. Look,
That's what the forensic analysis we do.
But before we start saying, well, let's get a new roof, so we know what we're doing with Celebration Hall moving forward.
Okay, I hear that. Let me go to Brian.
You asked about how would we think about cost. What we've done at the finance committee in some of our earlier conversations, is we've actually done some research on what it costs to build per square foot here in Celebration. So where and we don't, I forget the exact, being honest, I forget the exact number, but where we would end up probably at the finance committee before coming to the board is actually saying, here's option 3. We all know there's going to be an option A and a B and a C and maybe a D, and if B was, if one was just to build up on the back, or if the other one was to level this thing and go up 2 or 3 floors, you can actually sit there and say, based upon what we have, this is how many square foot on the first floor, second, third, and this would be an estimate thing. Because then it gets complicated, because if we're over 10% of our revenues, if I remember right, then we actually have to go to a community vote to raise debt and stuff like that. So, you know, if we said we were gonna tear this thing down, we're into a major project. But
Well, yeah, and the problem here is we have the repairs which are needed and should happen sooner rather than later,
Yeah.
dependent upon that decision.
But I'm sure, I didn't read anything in here that said we could wait 9 months if we needed to make the right decision to do the repair. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we.
Well, that's why I asked the question if anybody has visible leaks. If we have visible leaks, that kind of sets the clock forward. If it's a thing where we can put some caulk on the windowsills outside and maintain things for 6 months, no, beyond that.
No, the front door leaks
Okay.
because when they were power washing it, all the water was.
So,
Don't power wash.
I think what's gotta happen now is that management needs to start getting that, we need to do the forensic testing, and then we need to start getting estimates on what these items would cost. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I understand that Dick Larson is online and wants to make a comment.
Can you hear me okay? Struggling with the concept of repairing a building without knowing what we want to do it for the long term. And yes, of course, if we rebuild a building, that will cost more than maintaining it. But on the other hand, there's interest in providing more services to that building. And if we just repair it, that's not going to happen. So it seems to me do nothing right now except minor maintenance until we actually resolve what we want to do with that facility and that area. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. In the room that wants to comment. Wait, we're gonna need you to come up here, if you don't mind.
Regarding the subject, so
There you go. Tell us who you are.
James Wallace. What else do you need to know?
address.
Well, just when you talk about the residents, you know, when I gotta make decisions about what we can afford and what we can't afford, we cut back. So the residents need to understand if our HOA fees are going up, it's because they're asking for maybe too much right now. So just wanted to kind of throw that out for you all to consider. I'd love to rebuild my own house, but I can't. I have to fix it. I have to replace the roof. I have to do maintenance. So welcome to my world. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Sure, Charles, come on up.
Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up.
Charles Richards, 1020 Banks Street. Engineering side, I didn't see it in the board packet. Is that going to be provided to the community at some point? I didn't see it in the packet.
We just received it, so it didn't make it in time.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you.
So do we know whether there's any safety issues in determining what we aren't going to try to fix?
I don't read anything in the report that says there's an imminent safety issue.
Are you aware of anything?
So I think the next logical step here is to ask management to do this additional next steps, to work with Bill as our one voice from the board, and to begin to develop some of those numbers for us. Okay.
And that will include a mold check.
I think that would be part of forensic
Yeah.
That's
testing.
what, you're not some holes where they think there's penetration, and we'll see what,
They posted that several times in the report.
I love that sort of thing.
So is that something we need to approve to happen?
No, it's not an action item. I think we can just kind of just get a head nod. Is there anybody that
Yeah, that's fine.
we're good with that?
Good idea, yeah.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you very much and appreciate it. And yes, we will get that whole report. Pretty comprehensive, lots of pictures and information. All right, next item on the agenda for project updates is Lot D, down in the corridor. Go ahead.
We got some design proposals from KPMF that went to the pickleball SME group, waiting for their responses back. Once they get that, they will provide us the finalized 60% documents, and then we will be ready for approval. Yes.
I thought waiting for Ann to do further work, or did you guys get an update?
So they got,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they need to provide their design recommendations. Ann's group is fixing the grading issues that she didn't like And then once those two come together, we'll be good to go on the 60%. We'll have another meeting, and then we'll be good to go out for bids, and we'll be finalizing 90% drawings.
Yeah, and since we got one member out there, I'll encourage him. We were hoping to go out for bids August 1st, so I certainly hope we can make September 1st, if possible.
So for a project of this size, those of you that remember the Fields complex, we're actually staying closer to the timeline here than we did a few years ago. So not perfect, but we're getting there. All right, any other comments about that? Anybody in the audience, online? Okay, let's now move to 4th of July event expenses and staff hours. Who wants to kick this off? Or you want to?
What was it? Not last meeting, but the prior meeting. It was requested that we put together kind of some numbers of the number of staff hours that were put into the 4th of July event. So we looked back at the hourly employees clock in and clock outs for the Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of the July 4th weekend. In addition to the management staff's hours that were put in, and there were 353.5 hours put in by the town hall staff over the course of Saturday, Sunday, and Monday for this event.
I think we go a little bit further, and we also had the allocation to CCS, which I'll take after we take this one. But I think if we go a little further, what we learned as a board was that we were totally unaware that management was going to be asked to put up every tent, take down every tent, and in my opinion,
Garbage.
it went way past anything I would have approved. So I don't know why we're putting up all the tents and everything. I would have thought we would have done Lakeside only. So I think the whole business model needs to be changed. Otherwise, I will not be in favor of approving any of these types of things again. I thank those of you who sacrificed quite a bit. I'm looking at the hours, but this is not what I thought was happening at all. That's me speaking as one board member.
And I was quite surprised 2 special event meetings ago when we discussed it, that I go, what do you mean the staff did everything? What do you mean you set up the tents for the restaurants? Mm-hmm. Like, I thought it was just a Lakeside event for the residents, and the team did an outstanding job, and to put up with some of the stuff they put up with and being out to 1:30 in the morning is not right. It cost us $49,000. So in that net expense, that $49,000 doesn't include management time, correct?
Yeah, the salary staff got paid overtime pay. You also had 148 hours.
Which is not in this.
No, you also had 148.5 hours out of that 353 were the management team that don't get overtime pay.
Why I don't understand why this happened, because it involved all of Lexington property and they paid for the fireworks, but with everything, it seems like we paid for the whole thing.
Nikki, has it always been this way? Hasn't Lexington pitched in with, help with the trash, and has it always been this way? I don't remember.
As far as our team, we've always been responsible for setting up. I'm not sure in regards to the trash or cleaning with Lexington, but it has been CROA set up and staff.
In the past.
Correct.
So it sounds like what we have to do going forward is to contractually identify what the responsibilities are. It feels a little bit like we were taken advantage of because we had a new team in place and no one exactly knew what the deal was. We're good guys. We want to make sure the event goes well. The event went great. But I think as we go forward, we're going to have to be very explicit about what we're going to do and not do, right? And what we think the responsibilities are here versus other entities' responsibilities. So.
I think it's bigger than that. I think it's also looking at what is it that we as a community expect for that particular event. So it may be scaling things down. I mean, just putting everything on the table. If we want something that's done a certain way, then we define who's going to do what. But what are the implications of that for staffing, for time, for cost? Just look at the whole big picture.
Yeah, and Fourth of July is a unique event, right? It's an event that is not just our community like Founder's Day. And so it's got some different implications.
And Brian initiated the whole thing when he brought up the whole barbecuing, right?
Right.
But we didn't know all of this other stuff is going on behind the scenes. So what we tried to avoid with the barbecue, getting the hot dog truck, the staff was just like inundated with all this.
Okay.
So do we pay for this or does CCS pay for it?
I'm going to that.
Okay,
next.
good.
So I think we've got that part clear. The next piece of this was CCS. So go ahead, Brian.
Right, and we always had the open question about what should CCS pay for. And today with Lauren and Ariel. Going through it, as a reminder, CCS is a 501c. We should only pay for something out of CCS that benefits the community as a whole. Looking at the cost of the entertainment that was over on Front Street, the stage that went with it, some of the hotel and stuff with that, I was able to, and I think Laura and Ariel both agreed, we could charge $30,000 of expense to CCS. To be perfectly clear, that's still CROA money. So I don't want anybody to think we save money here. It's just out of a different pocket. I think $30,000, and that would be my motion for this group, that we reimburse $30,000 from CCS, and that Laura and have Ariel put together documentation supporting it for her and me to sign off on, so that we get the record for CCS.
Do we need to take that action here as CROA, or do we have to wait for a CCS board meeting?
I think CCS board meeting would require us to approve it here so that they could respond to it. I don't think there should be the reimbursement until the CCS board approves it.
So what I'm going to ask, since that's an action item, I'll ask that to be added to the September 10th agenda as an action item. Okay? And then we'll
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
But that's my recommendation for the group.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the audience or online?
I have one more thing to say. Again, they did an amazing job.
What?
Thank you.
Oh, they did, absolutely. Thank you. All right.
Thanks, Liz.
At that point, we are now ready for board comments. Start with you, David.
Just one comment, I think, with the agenda of last week and then tonight, generally they're getting to be more manageable, and I think we're getting ahead of things. I'd like to go revisit a conversation from back in March that we start moving towards a once a month meeting. I think it'd take a lot of burden off of management, and then also have periodic workshops where we can go in depth on certain topics. So that's not
Kind of like when you were president.
kind of like, well, and yeah, I mean,
Those were happy days.
those were happy, and you know, even before then, the board would have 9 or 10 meetings a year, not every month necessarily. But I just think it's time to have us step back and larger oversight and less, I mean, we're getting out of the weeds, and just keep ourselves out of the weeds and let management do their thing. I don't know how management feels about that, but just a thought, but something to think about for us.
Good, thank you.
Well, I don't completely disagree with doing it. I'm more agree than disagree to doing that. I think it's a little bit premature right now, in my opinion. But I think that is a better place to be, but we still have a lot of things going on and happening. And again, I wouldn't want to take it down to one unless we locked in a workshop so that we would make sure we had that exposure to the community. Yeah.
I pretty much agree with what Jim just said, that once a month, but only when we feel things are stabilized, then we can go once a month.
Anything else? Cindy?
I like the idea of the workshop. You know, even if they're just quarterly or something, just, again, because Josh, you say every meeting that, you know, we have a chance to look at everything, but I think we owe it to the community, especially on some of the bigger issues, that they actually hear the back and forth and not be in such a time constraint to get everything done. I would be in favor of that.
Anything else?
Nope.
Julia?
Okay. One other thing, and I'm only bringing it up because it's been a major issue. and I know you guys are working on it, but I just, Rocky Raccoon is like, he's invaded Lakeside. Does he come up on the camera?
Yes,
Yes,
motion. to-
Isn't he cute?
Yes, he
He
is.
is adorable, yes. We
Is it a he or a she?
I don't know.
They're
I'm not that close. We have trappers out
Yeah.
trying to trap it. It is a smart fella or
Yeah,
lady.
Raccoons are not stupid.
Just so the community knows
Yes,
you're
we are
working.
working on
Thank you.
Ricky or Rhonda, whatever.
Have you ever heard that song, Rocky Raccoon?
Moving on, anything else?
No, I just want to thank the staff because they're awesome.
No.
And, thank you, Warren, for all you do for the communities and everybody else.
Right? I'll just remind the community then, there is no meeting scheduled for August 24th. Not because David didn't want it, but because we just don't need it for this particular. We do have a lot of things coming up in September. As you've heard, the budget planning, the work on Celebration Hall, the work on the communications group. There's a lot to go on. So we'll look at how to structure those meetings and workshops. Appreciate that. Thank you all for being here. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Say aye.
Aye.
We stand in adjournment. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for being online and in the room.
Quick question.